weekend. It's time for
Lone Star Saturday, right here live in San Antonio, Texas, from Lester Insurance. John Lester sitting over here to my left. And of course, you can look him up at lesterinsure1.com. He's our great sponsor. We're so happy to see you today. We've got a lot to talk about.
We have a lot to talk about, and we want to welcome Andrew Brock, who is here today, substituting for Rob Hicks, who is on the road somewhere. And we want to say that Andrew has been worldwide. He's been traveling with a musical group called Stomp.
Which is a fabulous show. If you've ever seen it.
In Germany.
Man, it's fantastic.
And Rick is here with us again, has been a guest on our show 2 or 3 times.
But they can't see him. He's off camera. We may have to drag him in here
Yeah.
at some point.
But we want to say that we welcome you as we celebrate our 243rd year of his existence in this great country. And unfortunately, not too many people appreciate that fact.
I keep hearing that from people. They try to start that rumor. I'm not buying that for a minute. I will tell you that I think so many people recognize how great this country is. And why do you think they're all trying to head to this border? They're not trying to go the other way out. They're not trying to go from the United States over to Mexico or Honduras or El Salvador or Venezuela or even Canada. They're coming here because I'll tell you where I get a lot of my information. Some of these guys who drive lift cars. I had 2 very interesting drivers. One guy was from Pakistan, and he said that he was trying to get his certification as a doctor in the United States. He said what humbled him was the fact that he knew that even though it was going to take a long time, that in this country you could do anything you wanted to, you could be anyone that you wanted to be. And another young gentleman told me, he said, Americans don't realize, this fellow was from Iran. He said, in Iran right now, he said, the mullahs have decided that music and concerts are from the devil. They can't hear music. He said, you realize, he said, that more than 50% of the population is under 30. He said, they look to the United States, they look to the heroes of the Revolutionary War to try to figure out how they were able to take control of their country. So I think there are a lot of people that recognize that this country is a great country.
And I think it was a wonderful 4th of July celebration that was commemorated in D.C. 2 days ago. I thought it was fantastic. I thought the president stayed away from politics, gave credit to the people who made this country so great, and it is so great. This is Blanquita Cullum here, back from D.C. after an absence of several weeks. I don't know how many, several. And then I'm Gary DeLaune, and we've got Big John here with us, and we speak of the heroes of this great country.
Absolutely.
This is the birth date of one of them. He was probably the first naval hero, John Paul Jones, born in the state in 1747.
Amazing.
And
Still alive. He's kicking somewhere.
He's
Just
with
like Elvis. He's with Elvis.
He's
They're
with
running around the
Elvis.
country
You're
alone.
dismissed.
Okay.
John Paul Jones was the one who was quoted as saying, I have not yet begun to fight when it looked like the British were going to win.
I thought he said, I have one life to give her my country. I regret that I have one.
Henry.
Patrick Henry said it. Well, can I give a tip of the hat to some of the people that I think are...
Nathan Hale.
I want to give a tip of the hat to some people that are out there being real heroes to this country right now.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is a very dear friend named Andy Berger of Beulah's Place. And Beulah's Place is an organization that has rescued over 250 at-risk teenagers from sexual trafficking, from human trafficking.
Yes.
And there's another group out there that you probably don't know about yet, but we've talked to them. We're going to get them on the show. They are truckers to halt trafficking.
Great cause.
And they are over, do you know how many truckers that are out there trying to help people stop
About
this?
300,000.
800,000 of them.
Wow.
800,000. So, when we say there aren't American heroes, there are American heroes everywhere. We just don't see some of them. And for those men and women who are wearing this nation's uniform and their families, for those of you that have served, we say you represent the greatest of the great in this country.
You sure do. They are such great heroes. And we also want to say congratulations to a local nonprofit organization. In fact, it's a headline in today's paper about the nonprofit. That's the BCFS, formerly known as the Baptist Family Child and Family Services. And that's headed by Kevin Denton, who I've known for about 35 years. And they are supplying all of the food down south at Cadizo Springs. They're also the company that was picketed because they were trying to get mattresses for the babies. And the stupid...
I thought that was Wayfair.
Wayfair was the company that, that was making the mattresses,
Oh,
but
okay.
BCFS was one that was putting them in the
Okay.
facility. And, you know, it's just insane. And on this great anniversary of our nation's tremendous legacy, I think it was Piers Morgan, I'm not sure who the Brit was that said it, but he said, you don't see anybody trying to get out, they all want to come in.
Of course they do.
So, and I believe it was the, one of the reporters for Fox yesterday was interviewing, maybe a little older than millennial age, I'm not sure how old they were, but they said, oh, this is not a great country, look at Norway or Sweden. Yeah, look at them, and they're in deep
Well,
trouble.
they don't know their history, and the sad thing is, you know, I feel very bad for those people that don't recognize what a great country this is, but let us know what you think on Facebook. Send us
Sure.
a note. Do you feel that this country is a great country? Do you have issues with the country? Country's not perfect, clearly, but you know what? At least we are a nation that can accept the fact that we're not. We try to improve and we try to help. The interesting thing to me was the craziness that's going on. For example, I don't know if you all have been following this, but in San Francisco, there is a mural at a San Francisco high school that was painted in the 1930s depicting George Washington. Now, ironically, it wasn't this beautiful mural that made him look like the big great hero. It was one that showed him with slaves, etc., and so forth. This was painted by a man who was a contemporary of Diego Rivera and Frida Kahlo, whose own self-portrait is in Russia because he was a communist. Now, you would think in liberal San Francisco they would at least try to protect that kind of a mural because, but duh, they don't know their history even there. So they're going to spend $600,000 to paint over the mural. Now, first of all, you know, what's going to happen? Are we going to start putting fig leaves on nudes now? Are we going to start censoring art because we don't like what it says? I thought we got past that. And ironically, when you'd think in San Francisco back in the day, the land of Lenny Bruce and George Carlin and freedom of speech and all of that, it has become censorship. It has become censorship to the max and kind of shocking. Do you believe that the city council and the city of San Francisco and the governor of the state should permit that kind of defacing of art?
Look, what else they're
historical
doing
art?
in California doesn't surprise me at all. But I do feel so sorry for the people who are suffering now from the earthquakes that have hit 7.1 last night after a 6.4 earlier near Barstow, California.
Has anybody been hurt?
No fatalities, which
Not
is
so
amazing.
far.
But speaking of history, today's an important birth date for one of the former First Ladies, Nancy Reagan, born Anne Frances Robbins, born in this state in 1921. Of course, the wife of President Ronald Reagan. And also there is a statue that some sculptor designed of Melania Trump. Now it's getting some flack in the news I saw this morning. So, and she is indeed, I think, probably the most attractive First Lady in the last 100 years.
Let me ask you this. If you can't have certain paintings and certain statues, you know, are we now going to have censorship?
Certainly.
Are we going to say, well, you know, and who is going to make that determination? Who is going, I mean, remember we had this kind of thing happen in the Middle Ages and people thought this was ridiculous and barbaric. You had the Taliban that went and got rid of places like Palmyra and other places because they didn't want to have that kind of history. So are these censors that are making a determination of what the public should see, you know, who gave them the right to make that determination in a country that has the First Amendment?
And what other countries do you know that are going to have such great freedom to speak like that? John, you were going to say
Well,
something.
they just simply we censorship has taken over, and the things that the millennials don't want to hear, they just shut you out. My daughter, who I proposed a question to her last night: what is more important, the baby in the womb or the illegal alien coming across the border? Who's more important? And I don't want to talk about it. And that's their attitude. I won't talk about it.
They don't want to talk
They don't talk about it. And so they won't talk about it amongst themselves. As you say, why are they coming? Well, they come over here because they get free phones, they get free education, they get free health care. Everybody seems to think that they get nothing, but they get everything. And Alyssa just doesn't want to. She just doesn't want to hear common sense. What's more important, the baby in the womb? And it's not a political question. It's not a freaking political question. It's just a question.
Well, here's the other question. The question I have for a lot of people is when you have a governor of Virginia that makes a determination that after a viable baby is born, that the mother should be able to make the determination whether the child lives or dies. When do we look at that as something that is barbaric? You have a lot of people who are very progressive that use the term about Nazis.
Yeah.
Well, what about Joseph Mengele? Mengele, who did all these experiments on children and people because of their race or whether they were a twin or how they were, how he determined he wanted to do an experiment. When this country cannot fight to protect a child's life that is born outside of the womb and says it's okay to kill a child, and he's still remaining the governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia?
I don't get it.
What is that about?
We have the thing on Facebook shows that a bald eagle egg, if you destroy a bald eagle egg, it's a $2,000, $3,000 fine.
Mm-hmm.
But you destroy an embryo, it's okay. Doesn't make sense. Where's our
morality?
And our
Yes.
importance of life and these games that people play? They blow people up and they shoot you and you die. It's all over TV now. It's all over. I don't go to the movies anymore. Those computer generated explosions and people die. Nobody talks about people dying in movies. They just.
Well, I have a thought about that.
Just
okay,
normal.
I have a thought about that because when you watch and we'll be interested to see how our good friends out there think about this. When you see a lot of the Hollywood types and a lot of the talk show hosts get out there on TV, and they'll say they condemn violence and they condemn guns, but on the same program, you'll see an actor be interviewed whose complete career was built on being an action hero,
Yeah.
who has a poster somewhere with a gun. And I don't care whether it's Bond or Indiana
Liam
Jones,
Neeson is a great example.
any of them. But on the other hand, they'll turn around and say, but guns are bad things.
Mm-hmm.
So I would suggest, I don't have a problem if someone has an issue with guns. That's certainly their First Amendment right to have their own opinion. But here's my point. If you're going to take a stand against guns, then you shouldn't have anyone on your program that made their career in an action movie that
Absolutely.
had guns.
Yeah.
And they shouldn't be able to have a fenced-in, gated community if they don't believe that everyone has their own equal rights to have self-protection.
Well, Nancy Pelosi has to drive through all of the homeless people, the tent people in San Francisco to get to her walled mansion.
Correct.
But nothing's ever said about that. There's also a newly elected congresswoman who just was elected to Congress last year, who has sent her staff into Mexico to school and educate those illegals how to get in by lying about their asylum status. And that's illegal. She is committing a crime right
Well,
there.
the best control over something like that, Gary, is very simple. I think the American people have to understand that politics is not a spectator sport. You don't get to just sit on the sidelines and say, shamey on you. If you don't like what they're doing, then you need to go out and vote. And you need to be able to talk to your member of Congress in their home district and their home office if you can't get to Washington, D.C. And if you don't like what the senator is doing or the state representative is doing, let them know.
Well, that's going to happen in New York because now there is a Republican who was also a hero in the Middle East. He's going to run against AOC, and that will be good news. She only won by what, 9,000 votes or something like that?
I think it was 14 voted for her or something.
And now this is also another big birthday today. George W. Bush born in the state of 1946.
My boss, my former boss.
43rd President of the United
I
States.
worked for him.
And so we say, Big George, happy birthday to you. And it is also the birthday for several other big celebrities. This lady did a lot for the troops in World War II. She was a member of the Andrews sisters. Remember, he's a bugle boy from Company B, that was one of them. Laverne Andrews, born in 1911, one of the great singers for the Andrews sisters. And also Merv Griffin, Pat Paulson, Janet Leigh, Bill Haley, Della
Pat
Reese.
Paulson, who actually
Ran for
what was that?
office.
The Smothers Brothers. I can't remember whether he was an independent or, whether he. I don't think he ran as a Democrat or a Republican.
I think he was an independent. So, also the birth date for Merv Griffin, who was a great host of many TV shows. And on this 243rd anniversary, we had a lot of great events going on. The one in Washington was very impressive. Of course, Joe Biden was on news this morning saying that he can't stand the bully that's in the White House. He said he's the type of guy that used to make fun of my teeth and I'd slap him in the face. And so that's the guy who wants to be
Where is
president.
that coming from?
That's Uncle Joe.
Well, but the thing of it is to make him, I think, look stronger
Tough. Make
and
him look tough.
The best way you look tough is to get a plan.
And there's
I
our
think
guest
so,
coming in.
yes. And let me see.
Nelson Balido.
Yes,
On the phone.
welcome Nelson Balido, the president of the Border Commerce and Security Council. Hi, Nelson.
Hey, Blanquita, how you doing this morning?
You are on with John Lester and yours truly, Blanquita, and my very good friend Gary DeLaune, who is our co-host here. Nelson, you were on Fox just the other day, and I wanted you to share with us your thoughts about what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has said about the situation at the border. Now, you've been really dealing with the issues on the border. Is she telling the truth or is it a lie?
Well, I believe that.
I'm going to try to get you one more. There you go. Say it again for us. Would you please, Nelson?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes, now we can. Thank you.
Okay, sure. So I think everyone has their own version of how they want to portray this thing. I think, with my visits that I've had at many of these border holding facilities from the Rio Grande Valley to El Paso to even Yuma, Arizona, the thing is that I believe that group that went, the Hispanic caucus, most likely had their talking points ready to go no matter what. What I think what you have there is simply a group that wants to continuously complain, but I don't see them putting up any type of legislation or any bills or any debate to try to solve the problem. Everything that they've done at this point is to try to complain on what's happening. And the recent bill, the $4.5 billion, is really an after-the-fact bill. If you think about what happens after people get here, they want to fund more facilities, they want to fund more health and human services, they want to fund more services, but nothing is addressing the root cause of how do we stop these people from coming to the United States or our southern border to start with, so we don't have the issues that we have today.
Nelson, I wanted to talk to you about the human rights issue there because I met with a couple of women when I was in D.C., one in particular, Alma Tucker, who talked about the significant numbers of young children being trafficked. I said, well, what is it, Alma? Is it in the thousands? She said, no, it's in the hundreds of thousands. And she has a safe house in Tijuana. She has one for little boys as well, which is very unusual because they also are being violated. And Rosie Orozco, who has a safe house in Mexico City. Why can we not deal with the truth and get the truth about the seriousness of the human trafficking numbers that are coming across, especially children?
I think most people don't really understand the border to start off with. Unless you're from the border, unless you're from a border state, even the members of Congress themselves, the senators, if you're not from a border state, it's really very much separated on your purview. You're worried about other things, so it's hard to communicate communicate. It's hard to make people understand. Obviously, if you're from New York or other places like that, you're even more separated because there's a lot of differences what happens on that northern border as opposed to what's happening on the southern border.
Right.
But to the issue of human trafficking, these children, many of these children are getting recycled. So what happens is, if you're a minor child traveling with an adult, normally you get treated very differently. Normally they should be the parents. Sometimes they're not their parents, and that's why they have rapid DNA tests that are being put in place on the border now. But you look at those issues and you say, what happened? So the child gets separated, gets sent to their guardian, which could be their parent, could be an aunt, could be just a friend, could be part of the whole system. Some of them are transported back. They're flown back from, let's say, Miami to Guatemala, and they're recycled again up
Right.
to 2 to 3 times a year. Normally, these families will get paid $200 to $300 every time their child is recycled through the system, and it starts over. Does that happen all the time? No, it doesn't happen all the time, but it happens thousands of times.
Right.
Now, when you're talking about human trafficking, the other piece of this is people come to this country. Many have families, many don't have families, and they come with the hope and dreams of freedom. They come
Right.
at about $5,000 to $7,000 a head, because that's what the cartels charge. And again, make no mistake, this entire system is organized crime. Nobody just crosses the happenstance or the science will go to the U.S. Everything is absolutely controlled, and you're going to pay a toll. So some of these folks that have no money, they pay maybe $1,000 just to get things going. They come to the U.S. and they become basically indentured servants until they pay off their fines. And the problem is that fine becomes, $7,000, $10,000, $15,000, and some people never leave in servitude. And you think, how in the U.S. can that happen?
Slavery.
In modern age.
It's slavery.
But it happens. It is happening now.
Let me ask you a question, if you don't mind. How come we don't have this problem on our northern border? Why are people not circumventing coming in from Canada? Is Canada just a lot harder than what Mexico and the southern is? Why do we not have this problem up north? Because you mentioned New York, and New York's on the Canadian border. So I'm curious there.
Well, it just, that flow on the southern border, right? It's much more porous.
Right.
And really it's just easier to get to. It's much harder to get to Canada. They have to go on a boat or fly into Canada. Most of these people don't have the money to ever get on a boat to Canada or fly into Canada. But what we've seen on the northern, a lot of folks, because of more lax rules, regulations on the Canadian immigration system, you do have some folks that have been with terrorist links that have been caught coming over that northern border.
We also have another issue there, Nelson, that's happening, a couple of issues that are very significant. One is we're seeing an influx of people coming in from the Congo, Bangladesh, and other countries. We're seeing the overwhelming number of people, and so therefore the folks at the border can't possibly test everyone for disease. So we're seeing measles, mumps, potentially Ebola, and other issues that are coming in, and they're being dropped off in cities without any kind of precaution.
Happens right here.
And we've heard it's happening right here in San Antonio. What are your thoughts on that, or what information can you provide us?
Well, you're right. And, I've said it many times. This has become open season for the world. So if you're a U.S., if you want to come to the U.S. and you're from a foreign country, whether that's all the ones you mentioned and many more, this is your chance. This is your chance to come to Mexico, make it to the border, claim asylum, and really exploit our laws. And to your point about health and disease, absolutely, we're seeing things that we haven't seen in years in the United States.
Right.
They try to do their best to contain them, Many times they do. However, this is simply not going to stop until we change the asylum and immigration laws. So everyone that's complaining, everyone that says that women are drinking out of toilets like Ocasio-Cortez has, she's saying that people are getting mistreated. That thing she's going to say is, kids get caned as they cross the border because it's a bomb. She wants to throw bombs every week. Every week is a new thing for her. So it's a new lie, or it's something new in order to get more public interest and more Facebook likes. But I'll tell you what it is that I don't see her doing anything
Nothing.
to stop the problem.
Right.
And
Why doesn't she take the lead instead of being a complainer? Why? Because this is a political situation. This is full-blown political. They don't want to give Trump a win, and meanwhile, they're just doing harm to Americans. They're not doing the right thing like they should be as elected officials.
Nelson, there was a case reportedly that I heard about here in the Immigration Center. There were a great influx from Congolese, and no one had a certificate of having any type of immunization. And they said they were very unthankful, very arrogant. They were pushing other people out of the way. They couldn't speak English, but yet they were wanting the number one priority of treatment. And they would put them on a plane with no IDs. They would put them on a plane to San Francisco or some other city. And I can imagine some of them hadn't bathed in days, and of course it wasn't their fault, but there's no shower facilities at the downtown immigration center here. So we're in a catch-22 here, and we don't get a handle on it. It only takes one case of Ebola to make sure that everything is going to be really in bad shape in the United States.
Well, let me just point out, Nelson Balido, who's joining us here today on the phone, is the president of the Border Commerce and Security Council. But Nelson, you've had such an incredible career because you're formerly the president of the Border Trade Alliance. You were a senior director, division director at FEMA. You've been on the Homeland Security Advisory Commission and panel. Let me ask you one final question, because I know you're only with us for just a couple of more minutes. But what is the responsibility now of, you've been dealing a lot with Mexico. They have a brand new Mexican president. They allegedly are going to work with us. But it doesn't seem like Mexico is doing their due diligence as well. What's going to happen here? Is Mexico going to assume some responsibility, or Guatemala, or Honduras, or Nicaragua, or any of those countries?
I think a lot of that is wishful thinking. I'll tell you. So we got started on the wrong foot when Lopez Obrador came in on December 1st. If you look at the rising number of illegal immigrants, we started seeing it in the summer, but it really got back from December 1st and through present. Why? Because we went in with a humanitarian attitude, not so much a law enforcement attitude on the southern border. He wanted to give visas to work. He wanted to have people come to the country. He wanted to be a quote-unquote good guy. Well, the good guy got him in trouble, because now you have these municipalities and states that have almost gone under when it comes to their altruism, and certainly nonprofit organizations to help your normal transient immigrant or folks that really need the help. So what he's had to do now is backtrack and say, okay, I'm not going to, in order to deflect the tariffs, he's had to go back and look at, what does he do? So he's putting 6,000 officers on the southern border. He's putting his National Guard, from what I heard, around 15,000 on his northern border, our southern border, in order to stop this. What's going to happen after the time that he said he was going to do it, and in about 45 days, we're going to take a litmus test and see how that's coming along, and see has it gone down, and what changes do we need to make, and then we're going to give it another 45 days to see, okay, where are we at now? So 90 days after he started capping the illegal flow, we're going to take these litmus tests. At that point, I'm sure the president's going to say, okay, either we have to take either some more corrective measures, or at this point, we're going to have to enact some tariffs. But it's unfortunate that a foreign government has to do our job because we can't do our own job. And really, these particular bills need to originate in the House of Representatives, because it does require funding. Even though the Senate
Right.
can enact a bill, but really it requires funding. So really, it's the House of Representatives and her group to enact something to start making changes. But the problem is we're not even talking about it.
No.
We're just trying to put Band-Aids on something that we need major surgery on.
And what about the governors, the role of the governors of the states? Governor Abbott has been a pretty strong supporter of the president, and I would suspect that maybe there's a little bit different situation. Obviously, we're seeing with the governor of California. I don't know about the governor of Arizona. What's your read on that one, Nelson?
Well, I mean, I think they're doing everything they can. They have so much resources, but they're not immigration officials. All they can do is arrest and then take them to a detention facility for processing with ICE, U.S. Customs, and Human Services. So, I mean, anytime we have military, anytime we have anything else, the federal officers that yeah, we're going to capture more, but it goes back to the same root. It's not deflecting people from coming into the United States. It's just processing more people and capturing more people and doing it. Yes, we do need that, and yes, we need to document it. But the sad thing is, at the end of the day, 90% of these people that are captured and released never show up to an immigration court. 90%. So these people get lost in the United States, never to be found again, and then obviously demand certain services that we all have to pay for again.
Nelson, we want to thank you for taking time from your very busy
yeah.
schedule on this Saturday morning as we commemorate and celebrate our 243rd birthday for this greatest country in the world. I echo the President's comments about that. And we want to thank you for being with us today and giving us a great insight. I'm getting awfully thirsty. I may have to go flush the toilet to get a drink here in a minute. But we want to thank you for being with us.
And I'm not going to let him stop with that, because first of all, that was not accurate. None of those women had to drink from a toilet, and I don't want anyone to be confused by that, even though I know that was a joke. Nelson, will you come in and visit us again, but this time come in person? We'd love to have you join us here in studio.
Absolutely, anytime. You just let me know when you need me. I'll be happy to come visit with you guys.
Thank you, Nelson. Nelson Balido, the president of the Border Commerce and Security Council, a man who's served the president on a number of committees that have had to deal with the border, and served on Homeland Security's Advisory Commission and FEMA.
We want to thank John Lester for being our special host again today.
Put my 2 cents worth in.
You did, and you're looking tan, and we want to encourage everybody, because you've got a great boat, right?
Go fishing.
Go fishing, but get your insurance. And John Lester, the great thing about John Lester Insurance is he deals with everybody. He deals with every kind of company you can imagine. And if you want a good deal, call LesterInsure1.com at 888-380-9059, or the number here in San Antonio.
210-541-9771.
Repeat that one slowly.
210-541-9771.
We know there are a lot of sports going on in Las Vegas. Last night they had to halt the games involving the minor leagues. The Spur team was there in this tournament because the scoreboard was swaying due to the aftershock in the California earthquake. But if you haven't had a chance, you need to watch this weekend for the women's finals and the final group in Wimbledon, because there's a little young lady, 15 years old, the youngest tennis player since 1991 to reach this point of elimination in Wimbledon. She won yesterday. She'd already defeated Venus Williams, 15-year-old Coco Gauff. And she is a tremendous kid, a teenager. Can you imagine, 15 years old?
She's like in the 9th grade or 10th grade?
On the stage of the greatest tennis tournament in the world, one of the most prestigious. And what amazed me and really made me feel so good was they had some close-ups of her parents, of course. Every match before she takes the court, she has a prayer for herself and her opponent.
How sweet.
They're a very down-to-earth, low-key family. They have a great faith in the Lord, and that really impressed the heck out of me. And speaking of Wimbledon, let's go back into history. I played against this lady. I think I got to return one serve that she had. In 1957, Althea Gibson won Wimbledon, and she was a tremendous lady, the first black lady in, I think, history to win at that time. And then...
Did she beat you?
I didn't get to returned to serve. That's how good she was. In 1985, Martina Navratilova won her 4th Wimbledon title, and in 1996, Steffi Graf won her 7th Wimbledon title.
Tremendous
So
athletes.
what a great tournament
Yeah.
that is. And I heard the commentators yesterday say that because there isn't a saturation of sports like there is in the United States, that they do have the World Cup soccer going on, but it's a mesmerizing of the audience. Everybody in England now is just entranced
totally.
by Wimbledon. So that's a great sports story. And also in 1988, it seems like it's history repeating itself. New York beaches were all closed due to waste and debris washing up into the beaches, and that's what's going to happen again if we're not careful. So, so many things going today as we, on our celebration of 243 years of great existence for this wonderful country. It was on this date in 1917 the British landed the first dirigible to cross the Atlantic on Roosevelt Field in New York. So history continues to take place. And we do say that we have a lot of great shows coming up in a new format.
We do. We
few
have a
weeks.
YouTube channel that you're going to be hearing more about it. We call it the YouTube channel because it's ours. We're looking forward to having you join us. We'll keep you posted on it. We appreciate all of you that send us notes and give us your thoughts and opinions. We very much respect them. We appreciate the fact that in this country we have the right of self-determination, the First Amendment, the right of free speech, the freedom of religion and not from religion. And we thank all of you for letting us know what you think.
Well, and on this date in history, it's the birthday of Jeannie Seeley. You remember her from Nashville fame, 1940. What was it? The Harper Valley PTA. And also, Rocky has a birthday today.
Oh, Sly Stallone.
Sylvester Stallone.
I love Rocky.
Born in 1946. He hadn't grown an inch in all those years.
You know what I love about Sylvester Stallone, and you probably have thought about this too. When you've seen Rocky, and you know when you saw the first Rocky, and there's Rocky. He's down on the mat, right? And it's a movie, for crying out loud. But how many people kept saying to themselves, "Come on, Rocky, get up, Rocky, get up, Rocky, get up, Rocky." We all cheered when Rocky got back up because you know what? That's the American spirit.
That's right.
It's not how hard you hit the mat. It's not how hard you fall down. The American spirit is getting up and rising up and trying again and doing those steps like Rocky did and just putting the arms out and giving it the old American try one more time.
It had to be a Joe Wyden punch that put him on the canvas. So,
Well, what else happened July 4th of 1986? Did you not write that down?
Oh, here we go. What
Did you not write
happened?
that down?
Right, tell us.
Tell
I
us.
can't believe you didn't write that down.
Did you catch your first fish then?
No, it wasn't my first fish. That was when I lost my independence. That was my anniversary day.
Wow.
33 years of
Oh,
marriage.
To Lindy Lester.
Yep.
And
Happy
And just like most of you
anniversary.
guys out here on my Facebook, we all acknowledge we married up. So I certainly did.
Yeah,
So
Lindy's
33
a
years.
beautiful
But
lady.
but we went fishing. In 33 years, we finally went
What
fishing.
kind of bait did you use to catch Lindy? I want to know that. But
Oh, that's top secret. That's top secret.
Oh, we're gonna have to get the hook on that. one, so
Alyssa
we
and
don't
Kelly
have
were the products of that union. We want
to-
Yeah.
Alyssa
to
and
say
Kelly. beautiful
congratulations
girls.
to you for having two wonderful young ladies. And
Thank you.
Lindy, to put up with this guy all these years, I don't know.
It's been rough.
Yeah.
Been
Oh,
rough.
you've got to, and you know what they have, what I love about the Lesters, they have a group of faith-based friends that have been with you since
They
you've
do.
been married, that kind of, what do you call that?
Well, it's our life group
Your life
through
group,
CBC.
which is beautiful.
Yeah.
And they've been lifetime friends that have supported them through thick and thin, through all of that. Every family needs
Yeah.
that.
I was so impressed with the thousands. I don't know, they didn't give a crowd estimate on the attendance at the 4th of July celebration in Washington Thursday, but it was tremendous. I mean, I've not seen a crowd like that in recent memory that I can recall. And to think that he did not make it a political speech. I
Well,
thought the
he shouldn't
president
have.
did a
I'm
great
glad he
job
didn't. Yeah.
giving credit to everybody that has helped make this country great. He did leave out one name that I was surprised he left out, was Audie Murphy, the most decorated hero of World War II. And if you haven't been to Arlington National Cemetery,
Mhm.
you need to go because you get goosebumps and you get a lump in your throat when
Been
you
there.
see all those wonderful, wonderful names on those.
Well, you know, we got a lot of great Americans out there, and as we're wrapping up the show, thank you so much for joining us here on Lone Star Saturday. You are what makes America great. You're the hope and the dreams and the faith and the building blocks and the heroes that make this country keep going on. When people say it's not a great country, well, you and I know, and Gary knows, and John knows,
It is.
it's the greatest.
Yep.
And we always say, God bless America. And I just want to say, this is a story that the New York Yankees created. Since 9/11, those years ago, they've been playing Kate Smith's God Bless America every ball game that they have at home at Yankee Stadium. This year they dropped it because someone complained about one word that was in a song that Kate Smith recorded back in 1938. And of course, as you well know, she and Irving Berlin combined to give all the proceeds for God Bless America sales to the Boy Scouts of America. So we want to say God bless America no matter where you may be today, and be proud of this great country, because God does bless America, and He will continue to do so as we go to our church of choice this weekend. Happy birthday, America.
And we'll talk next week. And we thank you so much again for joining us here on Lone Star Saturday.
Andrew Brock, thank you.
John Lester, Lester Insurance. Don't forget him, our great sponsor, Lester Insure One. My great partner in crime here, Gary DeLaune, and I'm Blanquita Cullum. We'll talk next week.